Easiest women, man, is women in relationships. 9 times out of 10, when you see a relationship, if they've been together, I want to say more than 2-3 years, the passion is gone. So that woman, she really got a desire to feel validated. And that guy, he's not really, he not making her feel the same. He ain't telling her she beautiful, she attractive all the time. Yeah. Nice outfit, that's out the window. So even though you see them, that couple, she's still desiring that you feeling. All a coworker got to do, all them DMs, it start chipping away at her, bro. A lot of married women and a lot of women in relationships, it's so easy because they not getting that validation at home no more because the passion is gone.
Man, look, great topic. Great topic. And I talked about this on the 3 Milli podcast the other day in reference to women wanting newness, women liking newness, women feeling like you have to entertain them because women get bored quick. They get tired of the same old. That's why women are more likely to cheat than men. And that's why we've created this society where women are just like, hey, I hate cheaters, but women kind of started it all because dudes were loyal. I'm just being honest, fellas. Y'all know this too. Dudes were loyal. It's just that women wanted to test the waters and try different D's. Right? She wants that emotional roller coaster. She wants that emotional variety, and nothing better than that than newness. And it always goes back to the man not doing what he used to, him not giving her that feeling that she had initially. Women have to have that. Women love that, right? That's why you can't be all over a woman for one. You can't always be trying to, hey, babe, good morning, all this stuff. We got to keep the passion up. We got to keep it alive. There's nothing better to a woman than a new guy that's constantly complimenting her. That's why women go to social media, because she'll say there's nothing more valuable than your own man. You can hear a million compliments from different dudes, but nothing that's cool and all. But even if that's all she had, it wouldn't be enough. And none of you guys can compete with social media or guys on the outside, right? And it's just how it is. One day, some guy's going to come along that's going to give her that feeling, and she doesn't want it to stop. And that's why a lot of chicks do have side dudes, because he's not there up under her all the time. She don't see him all the time. So she's getting that feeling up until he becomes the main dude, and then that gets old. That's how women are. Women will argue with me on this, of course, because no man, unless he's simping, knows what he's talking about with women, right? No man knows what he's talking about. He's just, he's got it all wrong. Women are so loyal. Nah, man, women know each other. Women know each other, and there's nothing like that. That's why there's soap operas. These soap operas is usually of some woman cheating, or some woman, all these romance novels of her exploring things outside of what it is that she has. That's how women are designed, man. They just get bored very easily, very quickly. And being in a relationship, marriage, whatever have you, there's going to come a time where a woman's going to be like that. And it's sad. And you could say, well, JR, you're speaking negative. Women aren't like that. Da-da-da-da. Man, come on, bro. Come on, man. Women have to be entertained. They have to be entertained. And it's always been like that. That's why they gossip. That's why they talk about you. You're not doing enough. Women have so much access to so many different dudes now and outlets that they can constantly get that fill of attention. And of course, as I say, women will be like, JR, you don't know what you're talking about. I don't know who these women are. You're those women. That's watching right now. You're one of those women. I'm not like that. I'm not like that. Every woman's different, right? Every woman's different, man. But back to the topic at hand, because I know I went off on a tangent. That's why those are the easiest women sometimes to talk to. They always say that in terms of relationships. Easiest ones to talk to are the ones in a relationship.
Sit not at all with another man's wife. And how to break up with a woman. Sit not at all with another man's wife. And how to break up with a woman. Giving all praises, glory, and honor to Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi, Bahasham, Rukak Wadash, with all thanks for another day, another breath of life, another opportunity to bring out a lesson. Double honors to the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone. Salutations to my fellow laborers pushing this truth throughout the four corners of the earth. And shalom to the saints. Yahawah willing, this lesson will be edifying, relevant unto salvation for the hopeful elect. And this message is for the men. I'm not going to comment on the women's behavior. I'm only going to read this precept and then we're going to address the men, okay? This is Sirach 42 and verse 6. It says, sure keeping is good where an evil wife is, and shut up where many hands are. Sure keeping is good where an evil wife is, and shut up where many hands are. I'm not going to break that down for you because this is not a lesson for the women. I'm addressing the men. Okay? So figure out what that verse means on your own, all right? The title of this lesson is Sit Not at All with Another Man's Wife. This is the book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 9, verse 8. It says, turn away thine eye from a beautiful woman, and look not upon another's beauty. For many have been deceived by the beauty of a woman. For herewith love is kindled as a fire. So when it says turn away thine eye from a beautiful woman and look not upon another's beauty, it's speaking about a married woman, okay? That's why you see the apostrophe S after another. She belongs to somebody else. And the feminists won't like that, but when you read Sirach 36:24, you can put it down in the comments what that means. Okay? Do not look too much on a beautiful woman that's married. For many have been deceived by the beauty of a woman. For herewith love is kindled as a fire. Now that verse also means don't put too much emphasis on her outward beauty. Because beauty is not just something that you look upon. It's something that radiates from within. And that's how you can be deceived by the beauty of a woman. Okay? And I speak from experience. Verse 9. Sit not at all with another man's wife, nor sit down with her in thine arms, and spend not thy money with her at the wine, lest thine heart incline unto her, and so through thy desire thou fall into destruction. So let's break that down now. Sit not at all with another man's wife. That doesn't just mean don't physically have a seat next to her. That also means do not talk to her much as possible. Do not befriend her. Do not try to engage her. All right? That's what this verse means. And I'm going to tell you why in detail you should not try to be another man's wife's friend. First of all, you might fall for her through lust. If she starts confiding in you and her husband ain't this and her husband ain't that, you know, women will not paint an accurate picture of the situation that they're in if what they want to do is kindle a new relationship with you. No woman is going to tell you how great of a husband she has and how he's so protective of her and, you know, all of this and all of that, because otherwise she wouldn't even be talking much with you because she would respect her husband. You check it out? So she's not going to give you an accurate gauge of her relationship with her husband. She's going to paint it so that you feel empathy or sympathy for her to try and ignite your inner protective instincts. Okay? Women are quite aware of this. All right? So don't try to be her friend, man. Just leave her alone. Don't have much to do with her. Because the other part of it is that she might develop feelings for you. And if she develops feelings for you, you can end up falling into destruction, like we just read. But there's different ways that you might fall into destruction. The first way is if you go ahead and sleep with her. You know, that's one method of falling into destruction. But another method of falling into destruction is if you refuse her advances. So now you're in a catch-22. Women do not take rejection very well, all right? And if you refuse to sleep with her, she might very well try to destroy you. Because how dare you? How dare you decline her? Who do you think you are? Don't you know she's a woman? And she has something between her legs? It's like I told one married woman who wanted, what we're talking about here from me. I told her, listen, you're beautiful and I'm flattered, and every dog wants a fresh piece of meat. But if I do this wickedness, the Most High is going to put me to death. So thank you, but no thank you. And all of this could have been avoided had I known about this commandment at that time, which I did not, which is sit not at all with another man's wife. Because I'm thinking to myself, I can handle it. I'm not going to try to get with her. And even if she tries to get with me, I'm not going to fall for that. And I came very close to falling for that. Matter of fact, I think the angels were sent to prevent me from falling for that. And like I said, all of that could have been avoided had I just not befriended this woman. You see? But women are not good at taking rejection, mainly because they've never had to do it before. So the first time they face rejection is probably going to be with you as a man of the Most High, if you are indeed sincere about this work. So it's going to be a shock to them. And after they get over the initial shock, it's going to develop into hatred for you, man. You know, she's not going to accept the fact that perhaps you are a righteous man and you don't want to do this great wickedness. She's going to take it personally, man. Because that's what they do. Look at the story of Joseph and Potiphar's wife. You know, maybe we should get that. This is Genesis chapter 39. I'm going to start from verse 7. Maybe start from verse 6. It says, and he left all he had in Joseph's hand, speaking about Potiphar, who was a high-ranking officer of Pharaoh. Okay? And he left all that he had in Joseph's hand, and he knew not aught he had, save the bread which he did eat. So Potiphar didn't even know how much he had. You see? He trusted Joseph completely. And it goes on. And Joseph was a goodly person and well-favored. And it came to pass after these things that his master's wife cast her eyes upon Joseph. And she said, lie with me. But he refused and said unto his master's wife, behold, my master wotteth not what is with me in the house, and he hath committed all that he hath into my hand. There is none greater in this house than I, neither hath he kept back anything from me but thee, because thou art his wife. How then can I do this great wickedness and sin before the Most High? So Joseph told her no. Not because you're not beautiful, not because you're not sexy, but why? Because the Heavenly Father is gonna punish me if I do this wickedness, man. Not to mention, it's wrong. It's wrong. And it came to pass as she spake to Joseph day by day, that he hearkened not unto her, to lie by her, or to be with her. So here it is. Joseph is being sexually harassed on the job. Over and over and over, this woman is making advances. And he's just declining. You see that? He can't go and tell Potiphar, his master, what's going on, because, that's just going to create contention, and he's not trying to do that. So he just denies her and denies her and denies her over and over and over. Verse 11, and it came to pass about this time that Joseph went into the house to do his business, and there was none of the men of the house there within. And she caught him by his garment, saying, lie with me. And he left the garment in her hand, and fled, and got him out. And it came to pass, when she saw that he had left his garment in her hand, and was fled forth, that she called unto the men of her house, and spake unto them, saying, see, he hath brought in an Hebrew unto us to mock us. He came in unto me to lie with me, and I cried with a loud voice. And it came to pass, when he heard that I lifted up my voice and cried, that he left his garment with me, and fled, and got him out. And she laid up his garment by her, until his Lord came home. And she spake unto him according to these words, saying, the Hebrew servant which thou hast brought unto us came in unto me to mock me. And it came to pass, as I lifted up my voice and cried, that he left his garment with me, and fled out. Now I just want to go back to verse 14, which says, she called unto the men of her house, and spake unto them, saying, see, he hath brought in an Hebrew unto us to mock us. So in other words, she's placing the blame squarely on her husband's shoulders. She said, see, he hath brought in an Hebrew unto us to mock us. And then verse 17 reiterates this point, which says, and she spake unto him according to these words, saying, the Hebrew servant which thou hast brought unto us came in unto me to mock me. So there again, she's subtly blaming her husband for bringing in the Hebrew servant, which, is Joseph, right? Even though she was the aggressor and pursuer in this whole equation, she's not taking any accountability for that. She's placing the blame squarely on the shoulders of her husband. She's not taking any accountability. And if she was successful in getting Joseph to sleep with her, and her husband found out, she would have also blamed her husband completely. This is Proverbs chapter 30, verse 20. It says, such is the way of an adulterous woman. She eateth and wipeth her mouth, and saith, I have done no wickedness. You see that? An adulterous woman will say, oh, my husband was ignoring me. He was working too much, or he was abusive, or he was neglecting my needs, or she's not going to say, I'm a dirty, filthy whore. That's why I cheated on my husband. She's not going to say that. She's not going to say that. She's going to say, my husband is the one to blame. And guess what? She's absolutely correct. Because there's this debate going back and forth about a woman should take accountability and blah, 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 blah. But that's not what the Bible says, all right? Let me show you that. We already got that one in Sirach 42 and 6, which says, sure keeping is good where an evil wife is, and shut up where many hands are. So sure keeping is good where an evil wife is, meaning you have to keep her insulated against any potential problems, It's like you don't leave a child, around a hot pot of water boiling on a stove, because the child can injure itself, right? And it's the same thing with a woman. This is Sirach 36, and I'm going to get verse 24 now, which says, he that getteth a wife beginneth a possession, a help like unto himself, and a pillar of rest Where no hedge is, there the possession is spoiled. And he that hath no wife will wander up and down mourning. And keep in mind that a man can be married to a woman and still not have a wife. Okay? A wife is not just a woman with a ring on her left hand ring finger. Okay? So it says a wife is a possession. And if you have a problem with that, then just don't follow the Bible. All right? Just follow some other book. Okay? Because if you're picking and choosing which portion of the book you want to follow, you're wasting your time. You either take the whole book and every part of it, or you don't. And Revelation 22:18 and 19 says what will happen to you if you add or remove any portion of the book. So if you don't like that portion, then go and follow something else, man. But don't fool yourself, all right? But it says, where no hedge is, there the possession is spoiled. In other words, you have to put a hedge around your woman. You can't just bring a man inside your woman's house and just leave her unattended with him. So the woman was not built for accountability. That's why you have to put a hedge around her. But in today's day and age, Esau purposely empowered the woman to destroy the woman and to destroy the family unit. But that's a whole other lesson. So these endless debates about a woman should be held accountable, blah, 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 until you can exert force and be able to put a hedge around your woman, you're wasting your time talking about this accountability situation with the women, all right? Because she's not going to hold herself accountable, period. Women do not respond to you're telling them they need to be accountable. They respond to you're making them accountable. They used to be, once upon a time, stoning if a woman was caught with another man. And that might be something harsh and something barbaric, but it prevented a lot of the confusion that we see today, with almost 50% of children being born to fathers who are not the husbands of the woman. You check it out? So a question should be asked now. Should women's rights be more important than society itself? In other words, should women have so much power to just be free to do whatever they want at the detriment of society, where society ceases to exist and humanity becomes extinct? Because remember, most of the population are female. So guess who will suffer the most if society becomes degenerate and ultimately extinct? So placing these controls around the female or the woman is for her own good. And it doesn't start with her husband. Let me show you that. This is Sirach 26 and 10. It says, if thy daughter be shameless, keep her in straitly, lest she abuse herself through overmuch liberty. So what that means, when you give a woman too much liberty, or a girl in this instance, she's going to abuse herself. Isn't that what we see today? With young women having triple-digit body counts. Some of them have higher body counts than their credit score. These are facts. But we're not supposed to say anything about it. So when you love your child or your daughter in particular, you don't give her a lot of freedom, because she's going to injure herself, man. And she's going to carry those scars on for the rest of her life. Okay? Like we see today. And she's going to blame you, the father, for the reason why she's in that situation. Whether you are in the house or not in the house with her, she's going to blame you. Because women innately know that men are responsible for them, starting with their father, even though they don't admit it. Okay? Except to say they want a provider and a protector. But what does that really mean exactly? Shouldn't protection also be protection from yourself? Huh? And shouldn't it start at conception? I remember when my son's mother was pregnant, I looked at her totally different than when she was not pregnant. You know, I let her get away with things that normally I would not let her get away with, because I didn't want to affect her emotionally unnecessarily, not because of her, but because of the child. Even while she was breastfeeding, I didn't want to really be too harsh with her, because why? She gonna contaminate the milk with her bad attitude or bad response to whatever it is I was dealing with. You check it out? All of that goes into protection of the child. But when a girl grows up without male protection, particularly her father, she's like almost unfit for any real relationship in the future. And she's gonna blame the father. Rightfully so. And because she's blaming you, the first man who she should look up to, she's not going to be able to respect any man after that. Because she's not going to imagine in her little brain that there's men who are better than her own father. She's going to think that all men are like her father. And that's why we see what's happening today, man. Doesn't take a rocket scientist to put this together. It's all there in the scriptures, man. But Christians wouldn't know that because, you know, their pastors are weak and effeminate and don't want to teach the truth. At least not the truth that is uncomfortable. But like you talk about in Acts 20:27, we are free from the blood of all men because we are not shunned to declare unto you the whole counsel of the book, the sweet and the bitter, like you talk about in Revelation 10 and 9. Now this is Sirach 42 verse 11. Maybe start from verse 9. It says, the father waketh for the daughter when no man knoweth, and the care of her taketh away sleep when she is young, lest she pass away the flower of her age, and being married, lest she should be hated. In her virginity, lest she should be defiled and gotten with child in her father's house. And having an husband, lest she should misbehave herself, and when she is married, lest she should be barren. Keep a sure watch over a shameless daughter, lest she make thee a laughing stock to thine enemies, and a byword in the city, and a reproach among the people, and make thee ashamed before the multitude. Behold not everybody's beauty, and sit not in the midst of women. For from garments cometh a moth, and from women wickedness. If you don't like this, like I said, just change your religion. Go and follow some other book. All right? But it says that the father is the one to protect his daughter by putting a hedge around her, lest she defile herself, end up pregnant before she's married, you know, not be a virgin for her husband because she's just sleeping around, and all of these things. The father is supposed to be the one to lose sleep in taking special care of his daughter. That's why there was a dowry when a man wanted to marry a young virgin, because it takes a lot of work to protect a girl from herself. You see? But it goes on in verse 12, right? It says, sit not in the midst of women. And the title of this lesson is sit not at all with another man's wife. And I didn't even plan for this lesson to be so long, but I'll probably put a secondary title of how to raise your daughter. Because the Spirit just had me go into these other precepts, okay? The Spirit goeth where it listeth, and we just go along with it. But getting back to the primary title, sit not at all with another man's wife. Right now there's a case in this country where a prominent lawyer was out at some nightclub and he took two women home after the nightclub closed in the early hours of the morning, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. And they had already been drinking. They went up and drank some more in his house. And one of the women now is accusing him of rape. And, this happened as a result of her not going home to her husband until the next day. And he's the one, apparently or allegedly, that encouraged her to go and file these charges against this man. So, what is a woman going home the next day to her husband after a night out drinking, after she went to another man's house at 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, doing there, man? Could it be, and I'm not saying it is, but could it be that she went there with intentions of having consensual sex with this man? And now, when she's confronted about her whereabouts and her condition by her husband when she reached home, could it be that she's putting the blame on this man instead of taking accountability for her actions in order to appease her husband? And putting this man in a situation where he has to defend himself against what may be false allegations? Obviously, this attorney might know the laws of this country, but he doesn't know the laws of the Most High, one of which is sit not at all with another man's wife. The current legal climate is very dangerous towards men because at the mere words of a woman, he can end up in a serious predicament, man. She might come up with something like, he did such and such to me 10 years ago, 20 years ago. And the court is just going to take her word against any evidence or lack thereof and prosecute the man. Because this whole world is upside down. You check it out? And if she's been drinking, that means she cannot give consent. So every time you're involved with a woman that has been drinking, legally you are taking advantage of her. But yet you have all of these nightclubs talking about girls' night and free drinks for the ladies. That being the case, they shouldn't be able to drink at all outside of their own homes. Right? Because a man is not excused of his actions because he was drinking. So it's dangerous enough as it is, just dealing with a single woman. But when you compound that by dealing with a married woman, if she gets found out, she's going to say you took advantage of her in order to evade responsibility and accountability, to turn herself into the victim as a protection mechanism to survive. Okay? Just like Potiphar's wife. That's why we're telling you, sit not at all with another man's wife. Because it's dangerous enough as it is to even be involved with a woman who is not married. Okay? Going out to you men out there, man. Understand what time it is. May I even advise further, if you are breaking up with a woman who you have had a relationship with, it's probably best to cause her to break up with you. Make her think that it was her idea. You know, maybe you get super clingy and super attached and you smother her with your love and affection and tell her every 30 minutes how much she means to you, and you bring her lots of flowers and you just, make her feel so special. Do all those things that women claim, say that they want, but they don't. And then she's going to just get bored of you and go and seek the next thrill. See, even the cock knows. She'll tell you it's not you, it's me. Or I need to find myself. Or I need to take a break. And let her think that she's sitting in the power seat. Instead of you telling her, listen, I don't want to be with you anymore, bye. Because if you do that, you open up yourself to litigation. You understand? The scripture says deal with your wife according to knowledge. I think that's in 1 Peter 3:7 if I'm not mistaken. Deal with your wife according to knowledge as unto the weaker vessel. Because in her weakness, she can lash out to you when she feels pain. You check it out, and she has the whole legal apparatus to come after you with, man. This is Patreon level stuff here. So in order to minimize any collateral damage that might come about as a result of you breaking up with your woman and creating a spurned woman, and the Bible talk about that, speaking that hell hath no fury like such a woman, and you can look that one up on your own. In order to avoid all of that, just cause the woman to break up with you, man. Because you were living in a very hostile environment. And I should also make it emphatically clear that any man that has been proven to be taking advantage of a woman should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. I am in no way, shape, or form trying to condone any violence towards women. All right, let me just get that. Matter of fact, you can get it. It's in Deuteronomy 22:22 on down. And be careful, because you might get more than you bargained for when you read those scriptures, okay? So in closing, let wisdom be your woman. Sophia, as it were. This is Proverbs chapter 5, verse 1. It says, my son, attend unto my wisdom, and bow thine ear to my understanding. Skipping down to verse 19, still speaking about wisdom, likened unto a woman. It says, let her be as the loving hind and pleasant roe. Let her breasts satisfy thee at all times, and be thou ravished always with her love. All right, so seek the Most High first and foremost, and let this wisdom, this knowledge, this understanding be more precious than anything, your first love, as it were. All right, above anything in this world, let that be your woman. So Yahawah willing, this has been an edifying, exhorting lesson, relevant unto salvation for the hopeful elect, giving all praises, glory, and honor to Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi, Bahasham Rakak Wadash. Shalom.